Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into something absolutely mind-bending. We're going on a profound spiritual journey into one of the most fascinating texts of ancient wisdom, Canto 18 of the Yoga Vasistha. For our time together today, think of us as disciples, sitting down to receive timeless knowledge that's designed to completely dismantle and then rebuild our entire understanding of reality. We're going to explore the story, the dialogues, and the chronological events of this canto in deep detail.
So I want to kick things off by asking you a rather radical question. What if the universe, literally everything you see, touch, and feel around you, is entirely constructed by your own mind? Now, this isn't just some modern sci-fi thought experiment. This is the very foundational premise we're exploring today. We are dealing with the classical concept of Maya. Maya is the idea that the physical world is not an objective truth at all, but rather a projection of your own consciousness.
Let's start with Section 1, the illusion of Maya.
The text explains that all the dualities we experience in everyday life, joy and sorrow, light and dark, success and failure, are just constructs formulated by the mind. They're actively masking a deeper, singular, eternal truth that exists right beneath the surface of our normal perception. Think of the contrast between the restless mind and the eternal soul. The mind is constantly moving, projecting, and creating this whole world wrapped up in the illusion of Maya. It gets so tangled in the chaos. But the eternal soul, it's the silent, observing witness. It remains completely untouched by all this cosmic illusion. The ultimate goal of the seeker is to shift their identity away from that restless mind and anchor it firmly in the eternal soul.
Moving right along to Section 2, Grace and Self-Knowledge, focusing on verses 19 and 20.
If we're trapped in this grand illusion of Maya, how on earth do we pierce through it? Well, the text reveals a critical milestone in these verses. It says, "Through the grace of Goddess Brahmami, self-knowledge awakens, dispelling the darkness of ignorance." Now, literally speaking, this sounds like an external deity just swooping in to grant you enlightenment, right? But the Yoga Vasistha demands we look deeper at the philosophical meaning. It teaches us that true understanding requires a profound inner awakening. It's an internal shift, literally unlocking a door that has always been inside you, rather than just some intellectual pursuit.
To really grasp this, we have to properly define Brahmami. The ancient text completely recontextualizes the divine here. Actually, scratch the idea of a goddess sitting up in the clouds. Philosophically, Brahmami is the vital, activating grace of pure consciousness that resides entirely within you. She represents the exact moment your own inner awareness sparks the journey to liberation. Grace isn't something you're sitting around waiting for. It's something that awakens from within.
Which brings us to Section 3, the disinterested mind, as laid out in verse 21.
Once that internal grace is activated, the mind has to adapt its behavior to sustain the awakening. The verse tells us the disinterested mind seeks solitude, withdrawing from the chaotic sensory world to find peace. Now, translating this directly, you might think, okay, I need to pack my bags and run away to a cave. But spiritually, it means something way more practical. True renunciation isn't about physically escaping the world. It's about cultivating this untouchable inner sanctuary, completely free from worldly desires, even if you're standing in the middle of a crowded, noisy room.
Okay, so what is the practical application here? How do we actually do this? The text outlines some very clear, logical steps for the disciple. Step 1. Withdraw your sensory attachment. Basically, don't let your happiness depend on external inputs. Step 2. Observe your thoughts without reaction. Just let them pass by like clouds in the sky. And Step 3. Rest securely in the eternal self. By following these steps, the seeker achieves a profound state of inner solitude, totally regardless of whatever external chaos is swirling around them.
Following the text chronologically, we arrive at Section 4, the Cosmic Lotus and Sumeru, looking at verses 27 and 28. Here, the text takes a wild turn. It shifts from behavioral advice to cosmic geography, using these magnificent sweeping metaphors. Just listen to this. The universe blooms like a cosmic lotus, supported by the Sumeru-shaped central pillar. Literally, this is describing a massive lotus-shaped cosmos resting on a giant pillar. But philosophically, the deeper meaning actually maps this exact multidimensional structure of the universe directly to the human spine and its spiritual energy centers. As above, so below.
Let's define Sumeru to make this crystal clear. Sumeru represents the central cosmic axis. Yes, it's the pillar of the macrocosm, the universe, but it is also the microcosm. It's your own spiritual spine. It represents the central channel of awakening in the human body, the exact axis that connects our earthly, grounded nature to the divine, infinite consciousness.
And what about that cosmic lotus? The text details its physical traits, but philosophically, it acts as a map of existence. Each petal represents different dimensions of space and time. It tells us that all these multi-dimensional realms unfold from one singular point of pure consciousness. It brilliantly illustrates both universal creation and personal spiritual blooming. Your awakening is literally the blooming of this lotus along your own Sumeru spine.
Next up is Section 5, the form of vastness.
Verse 34 sounds incredibly advanced, detailing ancient theories on the multidimensionality of space and the flexible nature of time. It states, "The form of vastness is but a reflection of the limitless mind. Time and space are woven by perception." The direct meaning here is that scale, distance, and time are complete illusions. Interpreted in its classical context, it means our consciousness actually creates the dimensions we experience. Space and time aren't these rigid containers we're stuck inside. They're fabrics woven entirely by our perception.
This entirely dismantles our normal way of thinking. We usually walk around believing in an objective universe, fixed time, fixed space, totally independent of us. But the Yoga Vasistha proves we live in a subjective reality. Time and space flex based on the observer's state of mind. I mean, think about it. Have you ever noticed how an hour doing something you absolutely love feels like a minute? But an hour in pain, that drags on for a year. That is the subjective reality of your consciousness bending time.
All right, bringing it all together in Section 6, the path to liberation.
So, how do we actually apply all these massive cosmic and psychological revelations to achieve true freedom? The answer is practical renunciation. We apply these teachings by changing our daily state of mind. First, consciously see the world as Maya, a play of light and shadow, not an absolute truth. Second, remain unaffected by dualities. Don't let a success inflate your ego, and don't let a failure crush you. And finally, dissolve that small, restless ego into the infinite consciousness we've just been talking about. You can remain engaged with the world, but you are entirely unattached to it. This is the direct path to liberation.
Let's wrap this up with a summary of Canto 18.
Let's synthesize everything we've covered today to map our thematic ascent from cosmic illusion to spiritual awakening. We started by recognizing Maya, understanding that our mind projects reality. Then, we learned about Brahmavami, realizing that awakening is an inner grace, not an external gift. We discovered our own cosmic architecture through the Sumeru pillar, the spiritual axis right inside us. And finally, we mastered vastness, recognizing that physical space and time are mere constructs of our limitless consciousness.
This leaves us with a truly profound takeaway. The liberation of the self readies the mind for the ultimate dissolution of ego. Because once you deeply realize that you create the dimensions of time and space, that small you just dissolves. This beautifully encapsulates Canto 18 and acts as the perfect bridge connecting us to the teachings of the next canto, where the absolute nature of pure, formless existence is further unveiled.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder as you continue your own spiritual practice. If your mind created the entire universe you see today, while in its bounded, restless state, what will it create tomorrow once it is entirely free? Thank you for joining me for this explainer through Canto 18. Keep seeking the truth within.